Alright, the first unit we're looking at today is LR Fizz Omega Shenron for the 2025 Global Dokkan campaign. I know the Global Dokkan campaign is technically a separate celebration, but it is essentially the worldwide download celebration transformed and rebranded. So we're going to count them as well. Omega Shenron is on this list, and it's not even that bad. Omega Shenron actually is a really good unit. I just don't love the fact that even post super and all of his stuff is up, he can take damage. But I really do like what he's doing. His domain is very powerful. I mean, it doesn't give defense, which sucks, but the offense abilities are really good in there. But on top of that, he's supporting like crazy for extreme class allies. He single-handedly buffs GT bosses and revives it on his own. I mean, Nova Shenron was only doing like 28 million before Omega Shenron shows up, and then Omega Shenron shows up and Nova's doing 54 mil. So, I mean, Omega Shenron's presence is very strong for extreme class allies. But the biggest issue, of course, is going to be the fact that he can't take himself. And I know we have a ton of bosses right now who are doing ludicrous damage, and the power creep is like insane. But at the same time, Omega Shenron is a new headliner unit, or not headliner, but is a new premium unit. You know, you would think he could handle some of this stuff, and he can't. And that's the reason why I have him as the worst of the four. I mean, you can't really argue that, in my opinion. Rose is clearly better, the Blues are clearly better, and Gochita is definitely better. Again, Omega Shenron's role is fantastic. I still think he's a valuable unit, but of the four, I do think he is the worst. Alright, the next unit is going to be the LR Fizz Trio, and now that I'm realizing this, it seems like all the support units are going to be the ones that are going to be high and dry. Now, here's the thing, though, is if we're talking about specifically on release, the LR Fizz Trio would not be on this list, and you could argue Broly should be on this list. But we're not looking at just when they release in the celebration, we're also going to be looking at how they aged, and that's the reason why Trio is on this list and not the Broly. Now, again, Omega Shenron hasn't had time to age yet. He could age fine, but for now, of course, he has to be here. But the reason why I have Trio on this list is just because he could not handle the newer bosses we got. Again, his tanking abilities were already on the fence. Like, he could tank well, but it was based off of raw stats. He has no guard. He only got damage reduction temporarily. So, I mean, it's just, he was never meant to be a tanky unit. He was fantastic and so much fun for the meta that he was released in. He made everyone around him so good. He revived a ton of old units. Again, it was a fun time to play, and he had a great time during there, but the worst part was afterwards we were done, and he started to show age very quickly. His standby was strong, and it was tanky if you can get into it, but his base form was just not able to keep up with the bosses that we're facing right now, and thus is why he's on this list for the 2024 Worldwide Download Celebration. Alright, the next unit I got is the Fizz Sword of Hope Trunks, and also something I learned when making this video is if you're a Fizz unit during the Worldwide Download Celebration, you're probably gonna suck. It's actually crazy how many units on here are Fizz. So, anyways, the Fizz Sword of Hope Trunks is clearly on this list. I mean, VB was definitely better, Zamasu was better, the Future Gohan was leagues better. This Sword of Hope Trunks is very disappointing, just not tanky. The damage was alright. The standby was decent. Like when he got to the standby, he was pretty good. Once you got to the standby, the issue was getting to the standby, and that just was not easy to do for this unit. Again, he was already taking damage, and remember, we're in this meta where Red Zone Fusion Zamasu is the hardest fight in the game, and he is a Fizz. He is a Fizz unit, but he still wasn't tanking extremely well, and it just doesn't help that he gets damage reduction within the turn once he attacks per super he does, and no guard. That's it. That's all he has, and he doesn't have guaranteed supers in his kit unless you have his intro up. It's just not good, and he only raises defense on his 18 key. He's just not tanky. Now, again, once you got into his standby, he was fine, but that was turn 5. And remember, we were in a short form meta fight, and you were not commonly seeing him go into his standby, which is just why he ended up being one of the worst Worldwide Download Celebration units for 2023. Again, if it was a longer meta, maybe you could argue him being better than one of the others, but it just never went that long, so you really hardly ever got to see that in the first place. Alright, the next one is the LR Super Saiyan Goku and Vegeta. Now, both Part 2 units honestly could have been on this list. Both of them were pretty underwhelming. Bird Q and STR Cooler were pretty impressive. Again, Metal Cooler was still fine. I mean, don't get me wrong, but he definitely had issues. But this Goku and Vegeta card, man, is just not good. Not good at all. Again, they have amazing offensive abilities. They were definitely the heaviest hitter of the entire celebration, but the biggest issue was their tanking abilities. They just were not tanky at all, and it's not really shocking when you look at their kit. They just really kind of left him high and dry for the ability to tank, the ability to really do much. And the worst thing is they need to take hits in order to go into their morale boost form. Again, they only have 20% damage reduction on their base kit, and they got another 20% damage reduction on their entry, but even the 40% damage reduction is not enough for them to handle what they need to handle. Again, once you get into their morale boost, they were alright, but even then, they still didn't have a crap ton of damage reduction. They only had 30% damage reduction, but they had a little more defensive stats when they supered. Again, it was just really hard to use this unit. They just were not tanking enough, and just to get them into the morale boost state, you could not do it very quickly without them taking a ton of hits, which they could not do, and is the reason why they are on this list. Alright, let's talk about the 2021 worst unit for the Worldwide Download Celebration, and that is the LR Gohan and Krillin card. You could argue the Vegeta and Goku card should be on here, but I think these two should be on here. I only say that because, man, they're something. And 30% chance to dodge, and their only defense is the 130% they get from the start of turn. Not great. Really not great at all. They do have, defense on their supers that allows them to be decent, but man, they're just not great. Again, it just sucks because they could have been so much better. I mean, once you get into their, the battle suit change, they do have 60% dodge. No, wait, yeah, 60% dodge. So that is good, but it's just like they could have done so much more with them. And the Vegeta card, yeah, he does have issues for sure, especially because you could just hardly get to Goku in general due to the awful condition that card has. But when he attacked, he just has more defense once you attack. So again, I would personally take the Vegeta more over the Gohan and Krillin. So yeah. All right, the next unit we're going to look at is the LR Fizz Super Saiyan 2 Vegeta. And okay, remember, this is not necessarily throwing shade at units that are on this list. I want people to know that because I'm not trying to like hate on these units or anything. I think these units, like some of these units especially, are pretty good. This Vegeta, by the way, was not terrible at all on release. He's just the worst one of the 3 that we got because we got Super Vegito and Buhan, which were both insane units on release. But this guy is not a bad release at all. It's just he's not a Dokkan Fest, so they didn't give him as much love as the other 2, who did get a ton of love in that celebration. But again, this Vegeta actually is pretty good when you look at him. He has 70% attack and defense, and he has a multiplicative 70% attack and defense if you're at 24 key, because he gets attack and defense per key that you have. His active skill made him insane. The 78% defense that he got on that turn is pretty impressive. Again, like for this one is almost unfair to put him on this list because he actually was like very good. Like, I mean, again, he wasn't Vegito and Buhan level, but he was close. I mean, he wasn't enough for me to say like he sucked, he wasn't good, whatever you wanna say about this unit. He actually was hitting pretty crazy numbers. He was a very good asset to the Majin Buu team at the release, but I mean, you're not gonna be able to compete with people like Buhan, who is doing some pretty crazy stuff when he was transformed. And the next unit we're going to look at is the LR Androids from the 2019 Worldwide Download Celebration. They're not bad units at all. Again, kind of like the Vegeta situation. I don't really know if I would say they're bad. I mean, they definitely were not close to Cell and Gohan, but they were decent for sure. I mean, their passive is nothing crazy with the 78% attack and defense, and then they have a 30% chance to dodge. But the Android buff is nice. They can give that to Cell, that 40% attack buff. But really the value of this card is once you went into the Android 16, the damage that this card was doing back in the day was ludicrous. Like, it's like almost unfathomable damage that he was doing once you were in Android 16. Definitely the value of this card was in that. But again, the Cell and the Gohan, especially if you transform them, were just way better than the Androids, which is why I have to put them on this list. But really, I would not say that the Fizz Android sucked at all. I think they were a pretty decent release for a Yellow Coin LR in Part 2, so I think they did a pretty good job with them. All right, this one's got to be the closest one of them all, and that is going to be the Tech Frieza. This is for the Goku and Frieza Worldwide Download Celebration in 2018. It was the transforming Goku, the 5-stage 1, and the transforming Frieza, the 5-stage 1, and Part 2 was Go Frieza. If Go Frieza wasn't Part 2, it would be whoever the Part 2 LR would be worse than the 2 headliners. But Go Frieza is so dominant that you have to put Frieza as the worst unit from that celebration. The Goku had damage reduction on his transformation states. Frieza recovered health, which is nice, but it just wasn't enough for me to feel like that he was better than Goku or Go Frieza. Again, Go Frieza blows both of them out of the water, so it really was between Goku and Frieza which unit deserved to not be on this list. And again, with the damage reduction that you're building with every turn, it just made me definitely think that this Goku was 100% better than Frieza. And again, I used them, but I wasn't as serious in the game when I was playing with Goku and Frieza when they were released. They were fun Super and Extreme Class leaders, of course, and Go Frieza was just a very fun unit to run. But from what I'm looking at now, of course, the 21% damage reduction is 100% more valuable than the little healing that you get from Frieza. We're going to end the video the same way we started it. The 2017 worst unit was Fizz Omega Shenron. And it sucks to say because there's only 2 units that came out in this celebration, and it was the Gogeta and the Omega. And the Omega had a decent ability. He had the ability to debuff. I mean, that was pretty good. He had a 120% attack. I mean, he was definitely decent. I wouldn't say he was awful, but you are comparing him to Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, who was essentially the same as the Omega, but he had counters. And I don't know, man, if you know anything about Dokkan, the counters in this game are ludicrous. And on top of that, when you're using Gogeta, he also raises attack and defense on his Super. Omega was not. So Gogeta was just a way better unit than the Omega, but both of them had no defense at all. They were just really fun to use, and when Gogeta is having a 70% chance to counter any super attack in the game, he just almost gapped Omega. That's, again, unfair to Omega, but, I mean, he just was so much better. Now, I will give Omega credit. Omega did have the better leader skill. The Shadow Dragon Saga leader skill was way better than Fusion at that time because you had the year 2s on his team, which was very valuable to run then. So Omega's leader skill definitely was great, but Gogeta was definitely the better unit, and the reason why I have Omega Shenron as the worst unit from 2017 as the worldwide download unit. But let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Do you guys think there are some units that should be not on here? Do you think Omega Shenron is the worst unit of the 4 for this celebration? I personally think so. I think the other 3 they absolutely hit on, and it kind of sucks because Omega Shenron definitely deserved a better card, but so did Rose, right? Like, Rose has not had a lot of love recently, so I'm glad they hit on Rose. And Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, I mean, he's always good, but he hasn't had a card in forever, so I'm glad they hit on him. In fact, I kind of wish that the Blues were the worst card and Omega Shenron had a chance to be better than them, but, you know, for the sake of Vegeta Blue fans, I guess I'm glad that they did not absolutely tank him to the ground. All 4 of them should have been top 5 units. I don't know if I would put Omega top 5, but let me know in the comments below what you guys think. If you like all my voice content, the first link in the description is going to be to all of my voice content videos, and in the second one is going to be to all of my Dokkan Battle video content. But I'll see you guys in the next one.